Hello everyone and welcome to the review. My name's Janae and tonight is WIP and Chat Wednesday. Again, welcome everyone to WIP and Chat Wednesday. Tonight's video, I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to kit up my next project, and there's a little bit of story behind this kit up by saying that this is actually the project that I unboxed last week, and it is a 40 by 70 full square drill. It's a custom painting that I received from Evermoment. There's a little bit of story background here, so I'm going to give you a little bit of information, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy this. So back on the 12th of August, I ordered this custom painting from Evermoment, and on the 24th of August, I reached out to Lisa from Diamond and Stitches to see if she would be interested in doing a collaboration with me. Now, the reason why I reached out to Lisa is she is a big Seattle Seahawks fan, and so am I, and I ordered this custom. It's a emblem of the Seattle Seahawks, and I thought it would be really great to be able to collaborate with a fellow Seahawk fan. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen any of Lisa's videos. I will definitely have her channel linked down below. I do encourage you to check her out if you haven't seen any of her videos. Lisa is wonderful. She's funny and she's got lots of great information. So I do encourage you to go check her out if you haven't. So I reached out to Lisa on the 24th and I said, listen, I ordered this beautiful custom painting of the Seattle Seahawk emblem, and I was wondering if you would consider doing a collaboration with me while we do these projects. Now, the reason why I reached out to her also is because I know that she had a big Seattle Seahawk painting and she was working on it, but I thought, you know, it's okay, she already started. She did reach back out to me on the 26th and thought it was a great idea, but she said that she was almost finished with the painting that she was doing. So she said that she's got another Seahawk painting. It's a little bit smaller. You know, it sounded like a really good idea. So I thought that's great because I know that she's got a few projects on the go, and right now for me, I really don't have a lot of projects technically on the go, and I thought this would be so fun to be able to collaborate with someone that was a fan of the same team I was. We decided that we were going to do kit ups together, which would be airing today, and then every week we're going to be sending each other get to know questions, and we'll be answering those questions during the collaboration. Now, at some point or another, we will be throwing in some Seahawk questions or football questions along the way. But the fun thing is just to get to know each other as well as you getting to know us. So I hope this is something that you guys are going to be interested in, and it's going to be really fun to do. So by saying that, we're going to go ahead and get started on kitting up this project. So here is the painting. Again, this is a 40 by 70, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the washi tape and I'm going to go around the edges of the canvas just to keep the sticky part that's over the edge covered and protected so that it doesn't get dirty. Unfortunately, it looks like it's gotten a little bit of dirt right through here, but I'll be trimming this off once I frame this. So I'm going to be standing up to do this. Now, this washi tape came with the painting, and I'm going to try and get that as close to the edge as possible without actually getting into the painting. And believe me, I have done that once before and it's like, ugh. But the nice thing about washi tape is it's very forgiving. So we're just going to do the edges here. Now, if you hear any barking or a whistle, I do apologize. My husband has decided that if the dogs start to bark, he has a black whistle that he's using to keep them from doing that. So if you hear the whistle, that's because he's keeping them from barking. And Shelties are very boisterous. They like to yap. So I've got my girl here. She's staying with me because they seem to bug her a lot, and she's pregnant right now, and I don't want her disturbed in any way. Oh, looks like I'm going to have to do some canvas repair. Now, the reason why I say that is because I can see a little bit of ribbering. I'm going to pull this out because I don't want that to hit the tape or the stand. There's a little bit of ribbering going on, and that was most likely my fault because it wasn't there before. So we're going to have to repair that before we actually start. I'm glad this washi tape is wide enough to cover up those, or this spot that's got overflow of that adhesive. Might be too close to the border there. Let's see if we can put that there. And it'll be my luck. This painting is going to slip out of my fingers. I love the fact that they gave me this colored washi tape because it actually is going to work out really well with the colors. Oops. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's too close in there. Sorry about that. I'm going to just lift this up a little bit. Oh, I guess it was okay. As I said, you want to get the washi tape as close to the border as possible, but not right on top of it. And that's why, why I am moving it again there, because it was just too close to the line there. All right, so now we're going to do this side. I can say that Evermoment is one of my most favorite stores off of AliExpress. They do such a wonderful job putting customs together, and they're so easy to work with. I've never had an issue with Evermoment, and they do most of my customs for me. There. I don't like how it's going down low. There. Up, 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 up. Right here. Is that right? Okay, so one more side. And then we're going to fix these little rivers. So I hope everybody had a really nice Labor Day weekend. And I'm hoping that everybody that is in Florida is doing well. We've been watching the news on weather, and the devastation in Bermuda is just unbelievable. So I know there's a few YouTube creators out in Florida, and I'm wishing them well. I hope that everything goes well with them over there. Oh. See, I thought it was going to fall. Okay, one more snip. And we got plenty left. So now basically I'm just going to go ahead and press down this washi tape so that I have a nice seal there. Okay, so as I said, I could see some rivering right in here. So I'm going to pause the camera and we'll be right back. Okay, so where we're going to be repairing, you can actually see in the viewfinder, is right in here. And as I said, the river is really small, but it's enough for me to be concerned about. So I'm just going to take the blade and I'm just going to crisscross on that river. Now, if you've not done this before, it's okay as long as you don't press too hard. You don't want to cut into the canvas. You're just going to cut into that adhesive, and you're just releasing the air out of that river. Now, this is a little bit hard for me to see because it's black. And I really don't want to get my hands on that adhesive. So then usually once I've crisscrossed a few times, I'm just going to take the blade and kind of smooth it out. And as you can see, the river is starting to go down. So the main thing is just getting that air out of there. So that's looking pretty good. So right in here. Okay, and again, just gently go across there. As you can see, it's going down. Sorry guys, I'm having a hard time seeing this, so I'm just gonna move it around a little bit here. And there's a little spot, oops, right in here it looks like. Oops. Ah, my fingers. Okay, so as you can see, that river is pretty much gone. And I'm just going to bring this up a little bit more so I can see any others. It looks like there's a possibility right in here. So I'm just going to move the canvas. Oops, up in here. Okay. Okay, now I can see it. Guess I just needed to get it in the right angle. Now this is one of the reasons why I don't like leaving the protective sheets that come with the paintings on. For some reason, I find that there are a few elements that can cause bubbling or rivering, and one is humidity. And our house seems to hold a lot of moisture, so usually when I do an unboxing that has the paper protective sheet or the clear protective sheet, I will immediately exchange it with parchment paper, because I find once I do that, I don't have that issue with rivers or bubbles. I definitely don't believe that this was caused from, from Evermoment or the way they shipped it, because this wasn't here when I unboxed it, so it has to be something environmental in the house. And the only thing I can come up with is humidity. So that's looking pretty good too. So I'm just going to go up like this. I'm just going to move it a little bit more so I can still see something here. So again, if you're new to diamond painting, as scary as this might look, it really doesn't hurt your canvas as long as you're not pressing too hard. The main goal is just to get the air out of those rivers. So I'm not putting a lot of pressure there. Good, that one's gone. And that's not a river, is it? No. So I'm just going to glance at this in the viewfinder and make sure I've got them all. Looks like there's one, just a tiny one right here. And right there. Okay, you know what? We got them all out. Oh, wait a minute here. I just saw something, right? Is it this right here? There's still one right in here. Now, some of you that are new, you might be asking, well, why would you want to do this? One thing is, you do not want to place a diamond on a river, because ultimately, once you're done with your diamond painting and you start looking at it, you're going to notice that the areas that had bubbles or rivers are going to be lifted up. So the diamonds will never actually sit flush together, and that's what you're trying to prevent. So anytime you come across something like this, you really need to get that air out. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera again. We're going to move you back up so that you can see everything up on the perch there. So we'll be right back. So before we get started with the parchment paper, your first question: what is your favorite season? So what is your favorite time of the year? So we're going to go ahead and put parchment paper down now on this, and as you can tell, it's not sticky because I've got a clear protective sheet on it at this time. But I got some parchment paper that I'm going to get ready, and I wanted to show you the steps that I take to get my parchment paper and the strips that I like. So basically, I have a fairly long sheet here, and I fold it in half, and then I'm going to fold it again, and again, and then I'm going to fold it this way, now the reason why I'm creasing it is because I'm going to use those creases as my cut lines. So these are the size strips I'm going to put on the painting. So I'm going to take my scissors, put that down there. And basically continue cutting right on the crease. So I have a funny story to tell you, or to share with you actually, and this is related to football. I was raised in a family of 3 girls. I was the youngest of 3, and my mother and my stepfather were big NFL followers. Well, it wasn't just NFL, it was college football too. So every Saturday was college football. Every Saturday was college football. Sunday was NFL, and Monday night football. And we watched. I mean, I have to say, we watched football as far as I can remember. But when I started going to college, I was dating a friend of my aunt's. Actually, they were neighbors, and she decided to set me up with their son on a blind date, and we started dating. Their family was big in sports. All kinds of sports. It wasn't just football, but I would go over their place on Sunday and watch the Seahawks. So one day when I was at school, I got a phone call from my boyfriend, and he said, you know, my sister has to go over to this couple's house. Their last name was Johnson, and just wanted to know if you wanted to come. Now that night we were supposed to go out to dinner and to a movie, and I thought, well, you know, might as well. I mean, school was only like 10 minutes away from his apartment, so I said, sure, I'll meet you after school. I got out at 3:30, got to his place around 3:45, and we all piled up in his sister's car, and we drove over to this couple's house. Now, they used to live across the street from this couple years ago, and so they were telling me on the way that they were an older couple. They were probably at that time in their early to mid 60s, and they said, oh, you know, they're really nice people, you'll really like them. And at that time of my life, I was really shy. In fact, I'm still fairly shy, but you wouldn't know it on these videos, but I thought, you know, I didn't know what to think, to be honest with you. I was not sure. I'm not really good around strangers, I should say. And anyway, they took me to this place, and they introduced me to this older couple, and they're, like I said, their last name was Johnson, and really nice couple. But as I said, I was really shy, and when I went into their home, I didn't feel comfortable looking at, you know, like their pictures and stuff like that. I always felt like I was invading people's privacy if I did that. So I was just really quiet, and I kind of sat down in this chair, and the two women started talking about crafts. My future sister-in-law was very much into crafts, and at my age at that time, I was into showing and training horses. So they started talking about crafts, and the two guys, they were talking about football. So I thought, well, you know, I can get more into that conversation than I could with the crafts at the time. So I slowly got involved in talking to them about football. And Mr. Johnson looked at me after a few minutes, and he says, wow, he says, you really know a lot about football. And I said, yeah, you know, my family's really big into football, and so yeah, I said, I watch it Saturday, Sunday, and Monday nights. He says, I'm impressed. He says, wow, I am really impressed with this. Now, for me, I'm thinking, why would you be impressed? I mean, it's a game, right? Anyway, the conversation kept going, and finally Mr. Johnson looked at me and he says, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He said, so just out of curiosity, he goes, who is your favorite NFL team? And I said, well, I've always been a Seahawks fan since I can remember. And he said, really? He says, that's really nice. He says, you know, it's really nice to see that young people get really involved in the Seahawks, because back then, we're talking back in the 80s, the fans were kind of, you know, they really liked the Seattle Seahawks when they were winning, but they didn't like them when they were losing, and it was just kind of one of those back and forth things. So he's like, well, I'm really impressed. He says, it's really nice to see that there are people or fans out there that stick with the team regardless if they win or lose. I said, well, Seattle's always been my team, and I can't imagine rooting for another team. So before I get more involved in this story, I'm going to explain what I do with my parchment paper. So I'm going to put the strips down one by one, and then if I have to customize the strips, then I will customize them if they start to narrow. So that's what we're going to do right now. So anyway, getting back to the story, Mr. Johnson was, he seemed to be really impressed with the fact that I enjoy watching football. And he said, well, can I ask you another question? And I said, sure. Now, have you ever been put in a situation where after you said something, you think to yourself, insert foot in mouth? That's what I honestly thought to myself at that point, or after this happened. All I can think of is, you put your foot in your mouth. You could have just ate your foot. Anyway, his next question was, what is the team that you despise the most? Now that's a trick question. If you could label a trick question, that would be it. Because I was thinking, really, should I or shouldn't I? So, oops. Now remember, when I went into their home, I did not look at any of their pictures. So when he asked me that question, I really didn't think too much of it, other than I'm thinking, that's a trick question. And I kind of hesitated, and he said to me, it's okay. You're not going to offend me, because that was what I was worried about. I don't want to offend anyone. If there's some team that they like, you really don't want to blurt it out. But when he said, it's okay, you're not going to offend me, I thought, well, okay, you asked the question. So I said to him, well, I can't stand the Denver Broncos. And he looked at me and goes, really? Now, in the 1980s, Seattle, Denver, San Francisco, San Diego, and the two LA teams, which was the LA Rams and the LA Raiders, were all in the same division. So those teams were all rivals, and Denver was a big rival for Seattle. So the quarterback at the time was John Elway for the Denver Broncos. So I'm sure most of you have heard of him. He's one of the best quarterbacks ever. And then the quarterback for the Seahawks was Dave Craig. Now, in Seattle, you never rooted for Denver. It just was taboo. You just didn't root for them. But yeah, so I said to him, I said, well, the Denver Broncos, I can't stand the Denver Broncos. He goes, so why is that? And at this time, I didn't notice the two ladies had stopped talking. They were listening into our conversation. Now that should have been a red flag to me, but like I said, I wasn't paying attention, and the two ladies had stopped talking. So the question again was, why is that? Because I said I didn't like the Denver Broncos. I said, well, that quarterback, he thinks he's God's gift. Now, Mr. Johnson's face went like stone cold. And, at that point I was kind of like, oh, did I say something wrong? And he looked at me and he said, that's interesting. I said, really? He goes, yeah. He says, you know what? And I go, what? And he goes, that quarterback happens to be my grandson. I about fell out of that chair. My mouth must have dropped open. That's when I started noticing that the two ladies had stopped talking, and I started noticing the pictures on the walls. Now, my first thought when I saw the pictures were, either this couple is extremely extreme fan of John Elway, or this gentleman is actually telling me the truth and this is his grandson. Oh my God, I was so embarrassed. And it was kind of, oh, what's the word? It was, the silence, you could have cut it with a butter knife. It was so thick. And then I would say it was like a minute, maybe a little bit longer, and Mr. Johnson just bursted out laughing. And it was almost like a sigh of relief, because I thought, okay, they're just pulling my leg. I just kind of looked at him and he goes, it's okay, it's okay. And I'm like, so he's not your grandson? He goes, oh, no, he's my grandson. I was like, oh my God. He says, no, he's my grandson. He says, but we knew that you were going to say that. And I said, what? And he goes, we knew you were going to say that. And I said, what do you mean you knew I was going to say that? And he says, well, we had this planned for a couple of weeks. And at that moment, I realized that my future husband and my future sister-in-law had set me up knowing that I was going to say that. Needless to say, I was shooting daggers at my future husband. I wanted to strangle him. I look back at it now, and it is funny. I have to say, it is kind of funny, but they knew I was going to say that, and I was not happy. In fact, I was extremely embarrassed. So Mr. Johnson was telling me, he says, I'm just going to, he says, I loved it. Shoot, sorry. Can't talk and concentrate with this. He said, so I wanted to share with you some trivia, if you don't mind. So he brings this big book out, and I'm thinking to myself, I just insulted your grandson, and you want to show me this book. And anyway, it was really nice. He shows me this book of John Elway, and one thing I noticed is that he has a twin sister, and she looks exactly like John. Very, he's handsome, she's pretty, and they have the same smile, which you can't miss John Elway's smile. But anyway, he was telling me about where he went to school, where he grew up, and I lived in Washington all my life. I had no idea that he was raised in not Hoquiam. Yeah, Hoquiam, sorry. And he was telling me that his father was a high school football coach, and I mean, on and on and on. He's so proud of his grandson, which he should be. I was really honored that he spent some time to show me all this. So anyway, we left about, I would say, an hour later, and before we left, he says, he said, don't feel bad for what you said. He says, because as I was saying, we knew you were going to say that, so don't feel bad. And I thought, okay. I still was embarrassed. I mean, who wouldn't be? So anyway, 6 months later, me and my fiance got married. Okay, these aren't going to work. These are too small. And we invited the Johnsons. So after the ceremony, there we go. Let's see how this would work. Yeah. So after the ceremony, Mr. Johnson came up to me and he says, hey, he says, come here, I've got something for you. And I thought, oh, okay. So I went over there and he started talking to me. He says, he pulls out this envelope out of his coat pocket. And he said, this is for you. This is just, especially for you. And at first I was kind of like, I didn't know what to expect, because like I said, it was an envelope. And so I thanked him, and he goes, no, I want you to open it now, because I was actually going to put it in with all the gifts. And he goes, no, I want you to open it now, because this is just for you. And I thought, oh, okay. So I opened it up, and it was 2 tickets to see Seattle playing, or no, sorry. It was 2 tickets to see Denver playing in Seattle. And we both just kind of laughed, because I wasn't expecting that. And he started talking to me, and he says, you know, he said, did you really take a good look at those tickets? And I said, well, not really. I mean, other than it said Denver versus Seattle. And he says, well, take a look. Really look at those tickets. So I looked at them again, and they were VIP tickets. So he actually gave me tickets to not only see the game, but to actually go down to the field at the end of the game and meet the teams. I was so thrilled. I was just beside myself, because all I can think of is, yes, I get to meet my favorite Seahawk, who of course was Steve Largent. And I also got to meet John Elway. So we went to the game, and that game was so exciting. It was Seattle won, but it was an exciting game. Oh, before I forget though, when they pulled this prank on me and the shock wore off, I remember specifically asking Mr. Johnson, okay, I said, who is your favorite NFL team? He says, oh, you know, Seattle's always been our team. We just love them. We're season ticket holders. And I said, okay, fair enough. But I said, so when Denver comes to play Seattle, who do you root for? And he looked at me, and he had this big grin on his face. He goes, you never root for Denver and Seattle. And it was so true. So true. You could not do that. Anyway, to get back to the tickets. So we went to the game, and as I said, Seattle won. And all of us that were holding VIP tickets were basically told that we can go out on the field and meet the team members. So they would come out, and you started, you know, mingling. And again, I was shy, so I wasn't the type of person that I would approach them. It was more they would approach me, and I did get to meet Steve Largent. What a wonderful, wonderful man. Anyway, and I got to meet Dave Craig, and I was so excited. But finally, I think it was like maybe 10 minutes meeting all these players, I noticed that John Elway had come on the field, and he walked right up to me, and he said, so, he said, are you the one that thinks I'm God's gift? If I could have dug a hole and crawled in it, I would have. I was so embarrassed. I looked at him, I said, so, you heard about that? And he goes, oh yeah. And I apologized. I said, I am so sorry. And he goes, no, it's perfectly fine. He says, you're not the first one that's ever said that. I'm like, oh, good. But very nice guy. Totally different off the field than he is on the field. And I suspected that would be the case, because, I mean, obviously they have to have some kind of persona, you know, when they're out there playing. But very nice guy, and I got to talk to him for probably about 15 minutes before they actually had to leave, because they were flying back to Denver. But yeah, it was quite the experience. And like I said, it's that scenario, insert foot in mouth. You know, I mean, believe me, if I had known that they were going to set me up like that, I would never have said that. Never. Never. So that is my story of meeting the Johnsons. So I'm going to be asking your bonus question now. Have you ever been put in an embarrassing situation? Yes or no? You don't have to tell the story unless you want to. I'd love to hear about it. But if you don't want to, that's okay. Yes or no is perfectly fine. So anyway, yeah, that was my, I would say, most embarrassing moment. And believe me, my, oh, it's going to be too big or too small. My sister-in-law and my husband at that time learned their lesson well, because I didn't speak to them for a week. I was so upset. But the outcome was nice. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill these in real quick. It's not perfect, but the whole point is protection. You just want to make sure that you're protecting your canvas and you're making sure that you're getting all of the area covered with parchment paper. So my motto is, it doesn't have to be pretty, you just want the protection. So there we go with that. So this canvas is ready to go. So you guys got to see not only me do some canvas repair over here, but how I get my canvas ready with parchment paper. And as I said, it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but it works. And I don't have to worry about moisture buildup underneath that protective sheet. So the next thing is the drills. So I'm going to pause the camera again, and I'm just going to pull out this storage container system. Show you what I've done, because I've already dumped the drills in the storage containers because they are staticky, and I wanted to get the dryer sheets in there to help keep them from, doing the jumping thing. So we'll be right back. Okay, so here are all of the drills. There is a total of 42 colors in this painting. And of course, the majority of the color is 310. I believe, let's see here, we have 16,107 310s. And then, of course, we have 4,878 939s. Wow, that is a lot. So I'm going to bring up the thumbprint on this painting so that you can see what it's going to look like once it's completed. So that is going to be the completed picture. And the only thing I can say about the drills, they are a bit staticky, but technically they look really good. I didn't see any issues, and usually if you're going to see any issues at all, you're going to see them in 310s. They look beautiful. They don't have the dimples on them, which I'm really impressed with, and I've never really worried about Ever Moment as far as their drills. But let's dump some out here and show you. So those are the 310s, and they look pretty good. So if you see the lines in the video, that's caused from my lights. For some reason, my lights are causing the flickering, And if I turn the lights down, then it looks too dark in here. So yeah, I decided, I told my husband, I said, you know, my lights are too yellow. So I decided to get these really bright lights. But unfortunately, with the bright lights, you can actually see the lines and how the circuits work in that light. And it's like, okay, well, it is what it is. Anyway, so I've got all my drills set up and ready to go in my containers. The canvas is ready to go, and we're ready for this project. So we're going to go ahead and pause again. We'll be right back. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and yes, I was so embarrassed. I still look back at that thinking, oh my God. Anyway, again, this is a collaboration between me and Lisa from Diamond and Stitches, and thank you, Lisa, so much for agreeing to do this. It is an honor, and I will have Lisa's channel linked down below. If you haven't checked out her channel, please do so. She is wonderful. So again, we will be starting this collaboration next week, and we'll be giving each other get to know questions, so that way we get to know each other as well as you getting to know us as well. So if you like the video, give it that thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. If you didn't like the video, it's okay, totally understand. But if you can let me know what you didn't like about the video down below in the comments, I would greatly appreciate that. That way it'll help me improve my upcoming videos in the future. Also, if you're new to the channel and you like what you see and you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you join the family. Don't forget to hit the bell though. The bell will indicate when I've uploaded my next video. Also, don't forget about the 2 questions. Please put those down below in the comments, and that again will enter you in the free giveaways. If you're just now starting to watch the series, I will also link down the 3 videos prior, so that way you can also enter yourself in those free giveaways. And I'll remind you, the first main giveaway is a Diamond Art Club painting of your choice sent directly to you. And then I'm going to have 2 surprise gifts for each bonus question. So each video you have an opportunity to answer all those questions. When you answer those questions, you'll be entered for those particular giveaways. So again, thank you so much for joining me tonight, and have a very restful evening. Again, my name's Janae, and thank you for joining me on the review. We'll talk again real soon.